We're watching President Biden's event in North Carolina, where he will make his first comments after last night's debate, which, of course, is sending shockwaves, his performance, across the Capitol, where White House and Senate members' own jobs are on the line. Joining us now, former Democratic Alabama Senator Doug Jones and former Republican Florida Congressman David Jolly. Senator Jones, it's great to see you. This is a tough year for senators anyway, because the Democratic senators have more races in stake. And already, you know, you've got a Manchin problem in West Virginia with him stepping aside. So now what are they saying? And we've heard that Senator Shaheen, among others, are saying openly that there should at least be talk about an open convention.
Well, you know, Andrea, every senator is going to run their own race, regardless of what is happening at the top of the ticket. That's always been the case. And every senator that is running as a Democrat incumbent has a hell of a record for the people in their state. And that's what they've been running on. They would be running on that regardless of who the president was, because politics are local when it comes to those races. Now, that's not to say that they're not concerned. Obviously, that was a tough night last night. But at the same time, they're going to point the contrast, too. And they're going to talk about the fact that, you know what, in 2016, it was Republicans who were wringing their hands when the Access Hollywood tapes came out. It was Republicans wringing their hands after January 6th and talking about the 25th Amendment. So this is nothing new. This is one night debate performance. And each one of these senators are going to run their own race. And I think they're doing it in a very, very strong manner.
David Jolly, what was your reaction to last night?
I think we are quick to put it only in the lens of November, which is understandable. But I think what we witnessed last night was a national moment that deserves a national conversation, one we haven't had, as you and Michael Beschloss were talking, since the Reagan administration. The nation last night saw our president, regardless of party, clearly having declined from what they saw 4 years ago on the debate stage. And I think it does beg the question, is he the president that can remain president until January of 2029? That's the real hard question. He is not asking to serve until next January. He's asking to serve for 4.5 more years. And Joe Biden has served this country in a remarkable way. He stopped Donald Trump. And for people who care about democracy and stopping Donald Trump, nobody did a greater service to the nation than Joe Biden. Is he the only person that can do that again in 2024? I think that's a real question for President Biden himself and also for the Democratic Party. I sadly think last night started to answer that question for the country. It will be hyperpartisan and polarized. I don't know that we can have a national conversation anymore in today's politics, but I think last night deserves it.
Senator Jones, what do you say to that? Because there were a lot of concerns by people whom I've talked to who love Joe Biden, and I've covered him for decades, and a lot of people were pulling for him last night, were just shocked.
You know, look, I've said all along that his age and his ability is a question that needs to be having that national conversation, as David said. But I would also say this, the presidency is much more than 2-minute answers or 1-minute rebuttals. Look at what Joe Biden's judgment has been over the last few years. Look at what he is proposing for the next 4 years. And the team that he's put around him and how they do this. So I think that the conversation will do, but I think Joe Biden will end up prevailing on this and do the right thing for the best interest of the country, as he's always done.
Senator Doug Jones and former Congressman David Jolly, thanks to both of you.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.